Well, today I'm joined by Ancila Desai, Global CFO and Company Secretary of MedAdvisor. Ancila, thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me, Liam.
Ancila, you've led in sectors as varied as retail, logistics, pharmaceuticals, and now into digital health. How did your career path unfold, and what drew you into finance?
Liam, my career journey has been driven by curiosity and a passion for making an impact. I actually started in a very unexpected field, music, where I studied the violin and the guitar. Now, while I didn't stay in that space professionally, the discipline, precision, and creativity I learned in music has proved invaluable when I transitioned into finance. I saw that finance, like music, is about finding patterns and telling compelling stories with numbers. Over time, I found myself drawn to increasingly complex roles, as you mentioned, in logistics, retail, pharma, and eventually healthcare technology. But each step has really helped me expand my perspective. A turning point came for me when I pursued an executive MBA. That experience shifted my perspective from managing financials to actively shaping strategic business direction. At MedAdvisor, I lead global finance, legal, people and culture, and compliance. I've had the opportunity to deliver our first NPRAT and help drive cultural and commercial transformation across markets. That's been incredibly rewarding.
Yeah, fantastic. And having worked across such varied sectors, how do you feel that breadth of experience has helped you grow as a leader?
I think to grow as a leader, you've always got to call on your core strengths. You've got to call on what you're good at, but you've also got to keep learning from people around you. So, what's really helped me is calling on people who have expertise, learning from them, and while contributing to the success of the organization. Nothing can be done as an individual. You've got to always have the teamwork mindset in place, and that can really help grow your own career, but also improve the business.
Okay, so for listeners who may not be aware, can you please share a little bit about MedAdvisor, what they do, and what their mission in digital health is all about?
So, MedAdvisor is a medtech company. We are based in Australia and the US. The core goal for MedAdvisor is to improve health outcomes, both through awareness and adherence programs. We have 95% of the pharmacy market in Australia, and we have access to 200 million patient records in the US. So, really, the focus of our business is to help improve patient outcomes as a B2B2C business. We really support both the pharmacies and the pharmaceutical companies in reaching out to patients and improving their outcomes.
So you've got quite a lengthy set of job titles, as we often we joked about off camera when we first met, Ancila. Can you please tell us a little bit about the breadth of your work and what it looks like in terms of your day to day?
It's been an interesting journey, and I have grown my role over the years. I did start as the CFO of the business. Today, as a CFO and the CAO, really my role goes far beyond the numbers now. I see myself as a steward of value, protecting what we've built while also unlocking future potential. That means ensuring strong governance, compliance, and transparency, but also creating conditions for sustainable and strategic growth. I oversee functions across both Australia and the US. I'm deeply involved in investor relations, capital strategy, M&A, and operational alignment. It's a balance of rigor and agility, knowing when to be firm, when to flex, and when to reimagine entirely.
Wonderful. Okay. As a woman in finance, a female CFO, you're often faced with the challenge of being heard in rooms where you are the only woman. Tell us a little bit about that transition into the C-suite and how you find your voice and confidence in those moments.
It's a really good question, Liam. Uh, Women are well represented in finance. We make up nearly 46% of the workforce, Yet only 15% of women hold executive leadership roles. So that's the real gap we have right now. And there were many times early in my career when I was the only woman or the youngest person in the room. And I always felt the need to be over prepared and to prove my place. But then over time, I've realized that presence matters just as much as preparation. I stopped trying to emulate others and leaned into my strengths: clarity, empathy, and overcome, and really outcome focused thinking. Confidence didn't come from being loud, it came from being consistent, credible, and delivering results. And now I focus on creating spaces for others, especially women, to be heard without needing to really shout or then shrink in the room.
I love that. You've often described technology as the great equalizer. I love that term, especially in terms of opening up opportunities for women. How do you see AI and the digital platforms opening up opportunities across finance and leadership for women and people today?
I think working in a medtech company, I see technology as being an absolute game changer. It's broken down traditional hierarchies and made leadership more accessible. In finance, in particular, automation and data analytics have moved us away from manual processes, and now we're moving towards insight led decision making. For women, especially, tech has created an incredible amount of flexibility and visibility. Two things that were often lacking in our traditional leadership pipelines. It's enabled small, more agile teams to have bigger voices, and it's created space for diverse leadership styles. Technology just doesn't scale systems, it's actually helped scale potential for women, especially.
Yeah, wonderful. So talking about lifting others up, sponsorship, mentorship, mentorship has played a big role in your journey. What's the best piece of advice that you've ever received from a leader or a mentor?
You know, Liam, I've been very fortunate to have mentors who've offered me guidance and sponsors who've created great opportunities. I've been very lucky. They've been people who've challenged me and seen a lot of potential before I did. And that really gave me the courage to step into the unknown. A lot of times that support helped me say yes to roles that I would have traditionally hesitated on. And I think, mentorships is an incredible gift. It's a responsibility, but also that's really helped me try different things in my career, and that's helped me succeed and also find my own space.
I've heard you, read of you making the distinction between mentorship and sponsorship. How do you distinguish between the two? And can you sort of share some experiences that you might have had, with sponsors opening up doors for you?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So, mentorship for me means someone who's giving you guidance, whereas sponsorship is someone who's really creating that opportunity. Someone who's sponsoring you is going out to bat for you. They're actually speaking about you when you're not there. So, mentorship is really guiding you, giving you the confidence, but sponsorship is someone who's, out there for you in the boardroom, in the executive room, giving you the chance to say, she can do it. Give her a chance. I'll help her, I'll mentor her, but she can have that opportunity. And I think, as we come to this stage in our career, it's really important to have a combination of both and look at people in your network who can actually help you with both because there's a space for both mentorship and sponsorship.
Yeah, wonderful. So everyone has their own unique journey, their own unique experience and perspective. I've read you coin the phrase "own your narrative." Tell me what that means.
So, one thing I've seen time and time again, especially among women, is this ideal that we have to be 100% ready before we put our hand up. But the reality is, growth doesn't come from feeling ready, it comes from showing up. Some of the most pivotal moments in my career happened because I stepped into something before I felt completely prepared. So for me, owning your narrative means really embracing your unique journey, the detours, the reinventions, the experiences that shaped you. I really don't believe we have to fit into any mold. In fact, our strength lies in what makes us different. You don't always have to take permission, just take up space. Trust that you'll figure it out because you will.
And tell us about your journey. I'm sure there's been moments of growth and getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. Tell us a little bit about when you've taken a step into the unknown.
There've always been opportunities in my career, when I've had to really, uh, for me, the real shift comes in the new CFO role today. The CFO role today is very different to what it was traditionally. And it's not just about historical reporting anymore, it's about shaping the future. So, finance leaders are now expected to translate data into direction, to connect financial health with strategic ambition. And this is what really has excited me in my journey because now we have a seat at that strategy table. We can influence where we invest, how we grow, how we serve our customers, how we innovate. So, finance now for me is a function that helps the business say yes thoughtfully and with purpose.
Yep, love that. Okay, leadership. What does it look like? What does good leadership look like for you today?
Good leadership for me is about listening. You always have to be willing to listen and understand. And, we always talk about reading the room, but that's really important. You've got to read your whole organization. Culture comes from within. And if you want to make a real change and impact, you need to understand the people you have in the organization. So for me, leadership is not about having a title. It's about having the capability and the ability to understand what's required and then helping deliver that outcome. There have been lots of moments in my career, in MedAdvisor in particular, where we've been at that point where we've had to make really tough decisions. But tough decisions, good decisions, nothing can be done without a group of people. And I've been very fortunate that the team that works with me is strong, capable. We've built some amazing leaders with potential. And I think that's what leadership is all about.
Tell us about some of the qualities. I have to ask this question, Ancila. Tell us about some of the qualities that you would look for when you're going out to market for hiring talent, some of those soft skills, if you will.
For me, the most important thing which I look at is about having clarity of thought and having courage, but also care. So for me, it's okay to have clarity about where you want to go, having that courage to say it. But for me, it's all about the care. You have to understand your culture and your purpose. So when I'm looking at hiring talent, it's all about one, you have to understand yourself first. You have to understand what's your driver of success, what makes you different. And then that's how you'll be able to actually explain yourself and add value because there's a place for everyone in an organization. You've got to not only find the right job, but the right culture which helps you thrive.
And this it's to build on that. This is different for everyone, I'm sure. But culture. What does good culture look like for you personally?
For me, good culture is where I can say what I need to say in an open environment, but where everyone can speak freely. And also, culture is all about understanding your business, understanding the people around you, and also balancing your individual need with the needs of the company. So, there's always times in your career and in your journey where you're very important. You're making this pivotal change, you're taking a step forward, but then sometimes the team is more important, the company is bigger. And for me, culture is all about having people in an organization that they help you grow, they make showing up to work incredibly exciting, and they're very empathetic and they help balance your performance with humility.
Looking forward now, tell us a little bit about what you're most excited about in terms of helping shape at MedAdvisor and beyond.
So, right now, where I am in my career, I think I'm really focused on joining businesses that are scaling, ideally through supporting, purpose-driven businesses. So for me, it's all about purpose. It's all about really adding value into organizations that have purpose. MedAdvisor, we're improving patient outcomes. But everything I have learned, I want to help build a more inclusive, more resilient, and forward thinking organization.
And then when you think about your legacy, this is always a funny word for people that are still midway through the midpoint of their career, but thinking about your legacy, what impact do you hope to leave on the organizations and people you've led?
That's a good question. For me, legacy is something that I'd want people to think about, is about one of belief, that I've created a space for others to grow, to lead, and believe in themselves, especially women. I want to be remembered not just for the results I've delivered, but for the people I backed, the culture that I helped shape, and the doors that I helped open for the next generation.
And reflecting on yourself and the journey that you've gone through now, what's a piece of advice you'd give yourself at the early starting point of your career?
I've been really fortunate to have good people around me, but I think if I could look at my younger self, I would say I needed to have more confidence in my ability. And it's, that constant fear of being judged, that constant fear of not knowing everything. I mean, now it's very easy for me to tell people that, but I truly believe you've got to stop being fearful. There's always some incredible human beings in every organization that you can reach out to for support and guidance. There's people in the room who are listening and observing. So sometimes it's just a matter of reaching out to them to get some guidance, to get some feedback, and feedback's a gift. And if you take that and learn from it, I think I would have been less hesitant.
Excellent. Now, getting to know you a little bit outside of work, Ancila, you've got quite a high intensity role, highly demanding. Tell us a little bit about how you like to stay grounded and balanced outside of work.
I'm fortunate that I have music to fall back on. And, that's so I've got two boys, and I tell them music is all about having an out, something to have when you're really busy, when you're really stressed. So playing the violin and the guitar has really helped me, because even now, and on days where I'm really tired, where I'm really busy, that's an output for me. That really helps me just get into something that I'm passionate about. And I'd always encourage the younger generation in particular to have something like that, because it just gives you an avenue to focus when you're really busy.
Ancila, do you have a book or a podcast you can recommend our listeners?
That's a really interesting question. Uh, I won't talk about the Netflix shows I'm watching, because that'll talk about my age. But there's a really interesting book I'm reading right now. It's called The Advantage by Patrick Lencioni. And we've actually taken a couple of copies of this book and shared it with our team as well, because it's got some really good insights into organizational behavior. And it's just been something interesting. I love reading when I'm traveling. The other thing I love reading about is marketing. So whenever you'll see me either at the airport or in an aeroplane, I've always got something on marketing. It's just an area I find fascinating.
A CFO that loves marketing, a unique combination. Usually at loggerheads, but you obviously speak the same language, which is good. Okay, and outside of music, what's one thing that people might be surprised to learn about you?
I play basketball.
Great.
And that's been great because both my boys love the sport. So I volunteer at the club. I also do scoring whenever I'm needed to. But that's the only sport I know. So I'm very grateful that I have one good sport.
Great. Last question. What's your coffee order?
A skinny flat white.
Love it. Ancila Desai, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much, Liam.